CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Welcome to Twilight on CRTV News. I am Moki Edwin Kinzaka in Yaoundé. Today we shall be talking about the African Regional Certification Commission for Polio Eradication, which has declared Africa free of the wild polio. The chairperson of that commission, Professor Rose Ghana Fomban-Leke, shall be our guest. We shall also talk about branding and packaging of made-in-Cameroon goods with Dr. Jean-Luc Mastaki Namigabe and Gilbert Eweme, who are our guests to talk about that topic. We shall receive here in the studio our senior colleague, Ebenezer Kanga, who is just from a trip with the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji. But we begin with the news, and Larry Fandi is already here. Larry, good evening.
Good evening, Moki.
Larry, the 5th edition of the COVID and Patriotic Holiday without COVID-19 has been launched today by the Minister of Youth Affairs.
Exactly, Moki, launched under the theme Youth and Responsible Citizenship in the COVID-19 period. The ceremony took place at the Studio 1 of CRTV Production Center here in Baladu. Let's have details with Cynthia Boyomo.
Staff of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education and those of the Cameroon Radio Television converged on the CRTV Mbalatu Production Center this morning to take part in the launching ceremony of the 5th edition of the Operation Patriotic Holidays.
The objective is to assure moral, civic and patriotic rearmament of young people and the population in general. And that's why we put this 5th edition of Patriotic and Civic Holidays under the theme Youth and Responsible Citizenship in the context of COVID-19.
This program, which will this year be aired on the CRTV and will feature educative talks program and sensitization campaigns carried out by youth against the COVID-19 pandemic. The ceremony, chaired by Civic Education boss Mununa Fotso, was animated by musical interludes and other activities.
A 2-day workshop for the project to analyze the impact of awareness raising on the population and the empowerment of people affected by the COVID-19 pandemic through income-generating activities began today in Yaoundé, in the Yaoundé 6 Council Hall. Let's now take a listen to Professor Emmanuel Kandem, Secretary General of the Pan-African Institute for Development, who chaired the meeting.
To be able to respond to the needs of the population at very grassroots level, to be able to face this pandemic, once by knowing what it is, second by reacting through income generating activities, also to give them the possibility to have income generating activities, because some are directly concerned because they were sick, but the other, just because the activity went down because they cannot more do during the period of confinement and so on. Therefore, we identify those persons, and some are here.
Few days to the close of electoral registers for 2020, many Cameroonians are yet to register on the electoral list, Larry.
Yes, Moki, the timid turnout could be blamed on the current health crisis, COVID-19, among other things, too. In the following report, Clarence Ngay presents the rate of registration and the challenges faced by Elections Cameroon.
5 days to August 31, 2020, deadline to the official close of voters' registers. A good number of potential voters are yet to get registered on the electoral lists. The low turnout for the registration exercise and withdrawal of voters' cards at the Lekam branches has been attributed to COVID-19 outbreak for the most part. However, as the deadline draws nearer for the annual revision of the electoral registers, Lekam is exploiting strategies to get as many potential voters. This is the scenario out here in one of the Lekam's branch office in Yaoundé. Registrations, according to the law governing elections in the country, registration begins on the 1st of January and runs through August 31st. For CRTV News, I'm Clarence Ngay.
Clarence, onto something else now. Cameroonian Vera Songwe is running for the position of President and Chief Executive Officer of the International Finance Corporation, a subsidiary of the World Bank, presented as the largest development assistance institution whose activities are focused on promoting the private sector. The 51-year-old economist, who has been Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, that since 2017, is running to replace French-born who has been there since 2015. She holds a PhD in mathematical economics from the Center for Operational Research and Econometrics, and also other master degrees.
The importation of pharmaceutical products within the last few years is alarming the country, Larry.
Yes, okay, the country spent dozens of billions for the past few years to acquire this product. The Minister of Mines, Industries and Technological Development is in a working visit in the littoral region to encourage home producers and also boost the sector. Laurel Batiaya picks up that story.
Report from the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development indicate that Cameroon imports of pharmaceutical products for over 3 years stands at about 112,335 billion CFA francs. The National Institute of Statistics revealed that the country has spent close to 372 billion CFA francs on pharmaceutical products over the last 3 years. In order to cut down this import, Cameroon is currently planning to boost this sector by improving the competitiveness of the pharmaceutical industry. This will be done through updating and reduction of the tax burden on existing industrial units and more. The second axis is focused on the densification and diversification of local pharmaceutical.
The international community has increased pressure on the Mali junta that has seized power in the country as the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie suspends the nation's membership. This comes after other sanctions came in from ECOWAS. I have been following this story for you this morning.
Its leadership agreed the move at an extraordinary session held via video conference, while adding that it would maintain any cooperation that would help the civilian population and a transition to democracy. The decision came a day after envoys from the West African bloc ECOWAS and the new military rulers said they had failed to agree on a timetable to return Mali to democratic rule. La Francophonie also called for the liberation of the ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, who stepped down from power last week after the military revolt, saying he wanted to avoid bloodshed. And they called for the establishment as soon as possible of a transition government led by the civilian authority. The OIF said it would be sending a high delegation to Mali in the coming days. The international community has already condemned the August 18 coup and ECOWAS has suspended Mali from its ranks. ECOWAS has so far taken the lead in the international community in trying to negotiate a timetable for a return to civilian rule with the country's new military leaders. But both sides said on Monday that they had failed to reach agreement. that Keita no longer wanted to be restored to be power, which had been one of the initial demands made by ECOWAS. Keita was elected in 2013 after running a campaign in which he pitched himself as a unifying force in a fractured country.
Thanks for giving us your top hour. Now you're informed to leave in the company of Moki Edwin Kinzeka and his guest on Twilight.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks for having me.
Let's have a break, and when we come back, we shall be receiving here in the studio Ebenezer Kanga, who is from a presidential mission. He traveled to the littoral and west regions with the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, to hand presidential gifts to victims of recent floods that hit those parts of the country. Let's have a break.
We brave all odds.
Quoi qu'il arrive, on doit seulement aller voir le site de Nachtigal.
This is just part of the job of a reporter.
Get the facts.
We are at the heart of the Nachtigal waterfalls.
On a parlé de 500 participants et experts.
And bring you the news.
C'est ici que se dressera le barrage de Nachtigal à Mont.
Au Conseil constitutionnel, au Palais des Congrès de Yaoundé pour vous donner les dernières évolutions.
Une équipe.
Un objectif.
Est-ce que le poivron est moins cher?
Vous servir.
Les légumes sortent en colonne d'Obala.
CRTV News on all fronts.
CRTV News sur tous les fronts.
Clarity, the Sokwan Gymnasium in Cheongju, South Korea.
CRTV News est né depuis le Katin Kolmesen Sayaoundé.
Larry Elvande, signing off for CRTV News.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Territorial Administration Minister Paul Atanganji is back in the nation's capital after a marathon visit to the littoral and west regions. He was sent there by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, to hand some presidential assistance, humanitarian assistance to victims of floods that hit those parts of Cameroon. He was with our senior reporter, Ebenezer Kanga, who is now here with us. Ebenezer, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Edwin. It's a pleasure to be on the program today.
The pleasure is ours, Ebenezer.
Yes.
Now, what did Minister Tanganji Paul tell the victims of the floods in Douala and in Sancho, in the west region?
Well, if you permit, Edwin, let me first of all situate the context in which the field visit took place. Following heavy rains on the 20th and 21st of August 2020, some parts of the littoral and west regions were badly hit by floods, notably Edea in the Sanaga Maritime Division, Douala in the Wuri Division, and Sancho in the Menua Division of the west region. Much material damage was recorded. 2 deaths were also recorded in Edea. So the head of state dispatched the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, to the field, first and foremost, to do an evaluation of the effects of the floods and then come up with a comprehensive report of what actually happened, including proposals on what should be done in order to prevent the occurrence of floods in future. Then the second mission was to hand relief packages to victims of the floods. So the field trip started in Edea in the Senegal Maritime Division, where, as I said, 2 persons died in the flood. Minister Paul Atanganji met with the victims and the population.
This should be one of the victims who are seen here in the pictures there.
Yes, that lady you are seeing on the picture there, she is an internally displaced woman from northwest region who came and settled in the Senegal Maritime Division. Unfortunately, her child died in the flood disaster, so she lost her child, and the Minister of Territorial Administration had special words of compassion for her, special words of compassion from the presidential couple to her. So the Minister of Territorial Administration had much to say. First, let me make a round first and foremost of Edea. Be in Edea, Douala or Sanchu, the first thing we noticed was that the floods, the causes of the floods are both natural and man-made. For natural causes, we'll talk about the climate change, but for man-made causes, we'll talk about a building in swampy areas. We'll talk about uncivic behavior. Uncivic behavior in that people block gutters and prevent water from running normally. People dump refuse. People take refuse from their homes. Instead of throwing in garbage cans, they dump the refuse in gutters, and it blocks the gutters and makes it difficult for water to flow. So when water cannot flow, it eventually spreads to the neighborhoods and causes the flood, as we noticed on the 20th of August and 21st of August. The second one is that people build in swampy areas. People are told that these are risk zones, don't build here. But you know what Cameroonians are, they still go ahead to build. And when floods occur, the consequences are what we know today. In a day, for example, we're told that there are risk zones which some people were told, some people living there were paid compensation and showed a site to relocate. They collected the money but never left. They're still there. Someone left, eventually sold the plots again to other people. So you see, there's a lot of uncivic behavior going on. Administrative and municipal authorities have to be very, very firm in order to control this.
Yeah. How many people in the regions you visited, in the towns you visited, suffer globally? How many are victims?
The figure they gave us in the day was 200. About 200 families were affected by the floods. In Douala, a total of about 4,000 families were affected by the floods, and in Sanchu, a total of 185 families were affected by the floods, and all these families received relief items from the presidential couple. You can see some of the images there.
Yeah, I'm sure it was very rapid, and it occurred during the weekend and on Monday or Tuesday.
Yes, just about 5 days after the floods occurred, and the Minister of Territorial Administration told the victims and the population of the various towns visited that the head of state has his ears on the ground, and anything concerning Cameroonians is very quick to react. It was a show of his concern for all Cameroonians, be they in the littoral, in the west, in the northwest, in the north, that the head of state has a lot of concern for Cameroonians and has a lot of sympathy for whatever happens to Cameroon. So it's just proof to show that the head of state is bent on seeing Cameroonians live better today than how it was yesterday.
Now let's leave the natural causes, as you said, and talk about the human causes. Are they now asking those who build in risk sites, risk zones to relocate?
That is the only way out, Adrian, because one can never tell when the floods will hit again. If they allow those people to continue living in swampy areas, floods may hit again next week, next month, maybe next year, and we're going to have the same consequences which we are facing today. So administrative authorities, municipal authorities, and that's one of the things Paul Atanganji insisted on, that the population has to collaborate with administrative and municipal authorities in order to avoid the occurrence of floods. What did he mean when he said that the population should collaborate? It means when municipal authorities, when administrative authorities tell you that you should not build here, this is a risk zone, you should obey. Don't go ahead to build it, because imagine you take your savings, your lifetime savings, you go and build a house, and when floods come, they destroy the house. You are the loser. You are the loser, and you will have
yourself to blame.
Yes, yourself to blame.
Do you have an impression the population is collaborating, and some of them should be taken to court, justice to take its course, for receiving money for compensation and then building on the same?
That is where the problem too lies, Edwin. You know, one of the things that has led us to where we are today in this country is what you call administrative tolerance. That's one of the things, because when you look at the way the Cameroon society functions today, it seems to be a laissez-faire. Nobody cares about anything. Nobody respects anybody. Nobody respects anything. It's administrative tolerance. You see, we know that what they are doing is wrong, but you see we just leave it. We just leave it. We say, okay,
and
no,
after the consequences
can be followed. So the administrative and municipal authorities have to be firm on this. Somebody told me that municipal authorities, for example, at times don't want to put a lot of pressure on people because
they are elected officials.
They are elected officials. officials. If you start putting a lot of pressure on them, they'll not vote in the next elections. But it's like backlashing. It's like backlashing on us. We have to put an end to this administrative tolerance. What has to be done should be done, no matter whom it hurts. There's one other point I was going to forget, Edwin. The administrative authorities to have to do their job. In Douala, for example, the Douala city mayor told us that for the problem of floods to be partly solved, the Douala needs a drainage system of 240 kilometers. Right now, Douala does not have up to 40 kilometers of drainage system, which means that there's virtually no drainage in Douala. And when there's no drainage and it rains, the water flows to just every direction. So municipal authorities have to do their own job by providing adequate drainage systems in their towns and cities, and then the population to have to do their own job by being civic, by being responsible, by being republican in their behavior, by not blocking gutters, by not dumping waste just anywhere, and by respecting the environment.
Now, before you leave, Ebenezer Kanga, it should be very difficult. These are elected officials, as you said, and if they take that radical action now, they may not be in the offices tomorrow. People are going out, so it's not going to be easy. What are you suggesting? How do you think this should be carried out? Administrative officials should come in. Yes,
Edwin, I am for the fact that administrative tolerance should come to an end. Administrative tolerance is going for a very long time, and the consequences are there for us to see. As I said, nobody respects anybody again in this country. Nobody respects anything. Because they know that when they will start action against you, before you know it, tomorrow somebody will come and say, no, you see, just leave this thing for now, just leave it for now. That's what been going in this country, and the consequences are there for us to see. I think the only way out is to put an end to this administrative tolerance. Let what has to be done, no matter whom it hurts, in as much as the law is being respected. How will you convince me to understand that this zone is declared a risk zone, which means nobody should build there? And then tomorrow you find houses.
Houses, not even one house.
Not even one. How do you explain that type of thing to me?
Well, I want to thank you so very much, Ebenezer Kanga, for coming and sharing your experience. I'm sure the minister was so hard when it came to those issues.
Yes.
Trust Atanga.
Yes. Paul Atangaji is. If you had the privilege to work with him, he's a workaholic.
A bulldozer too.
Yes, a bulldozer. We came back this morning at 3 a.m. And I want to tell you, when we got to the minister at 3 a.m., while some of us were very tired and going home, he went to his office. He went to his office to work.
Thank you so very much, Ebenezer Kanga.
Thank you very much, Edwin. It's been a great pleasure.
Thanks. We are taking a break, and when we come back, we shall be receiving Professor Rose Ghana Fomban-Leke, who is chair for the African Regional Certificate Commission for Polio Eradication. And the good news is that Africa has been declared wild polio free. Let's have a break. Thanks, Bo.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Vous les voyez tous uniformes dans leur tenue, mais aussi dans leur émotion.
The slip-on bamboos undergo all that very tough treatment.
Ils sont là pour entendre ce que la République peut offrir à leur pays.
We are precisely at the Gaoundéré Lamida, where Muslim faithful.
Dakar c'est le plus grand marché de Cotonou, mais aussi le plus vaste de la sous-région.
Merci de nous rejoindre ici à la résidence principale du Palais de l'Unité.
La préparation de la salle qui va abriter le grand dialogue national.
It is here that a student of 4e espagnol has had his teacher.
C'est le grand jour.
Les fidèles musulmans arrivent en rang au serré.
Andi Kinemeki, une femme d'une 50aine d'années, a été froidement assassinée.
Forces of law and order ensuring the safety of everyone in the town.
Le festival Danse et Continent va battre en plein.
will hand over gifts to over 300 children.
Merci de prendre des nouvelles de Campo.
Engage the grand event, the major national dialogue.
Nous sommes là sur une des voies d'accès du stade de Japomat.
Botswana Kenya, c'est la première rencontre
rencontre de cet après-midi. Nous sommes à près de 1000 km de Beijing.
Follow me and let's find out Shanghai and the Shanghainese.
CRTV News, Sally Sonata Faha at the Nachtigal Dam.
Gladys Le Bouddha at Sochi.
I am Ellis Wachibambia in Gounder.
I am Gladys Asu in Mamfe.
A government high school called Bison. I am Karine Sosa.
Denis Lémé depuis le carrefour à Dakar.
Bernard Cabla depuis le lycée classique Ferguson.
CRTV News, Esther Ayiboko depuis le palais polyvalent des sports.
Amchide, Steve Cheka et Kembenge, CRTV News.
CRTV News, Jamila Katsalat.
CRTV News, nothing but the news.
Africa has been declared polio-free. The information was made public by the chair of the African Regional Certification Commission for Polio Eradication, who is Professor or Cameroon-born Professor Rose Ghana from Banleke, and she's here with us in the studio. Mom, thank you very much for coming and at short notice.
Thank you, Moki, for bringing me here, and I'm really glad to be here. And I promised that I would, on the air, say my excuses to Joe Chebonken, who tried to get me here so many times that I never did, but I'm here today.
No, understand
because your people, yesterday was the greatest day for us, and CRTV was there, but CRTV, no English news, no French news said a word, while the world was rejoicing for Africa. So I thought I better come here myself and get the message across.
I think CRTV Radio said it, CRTV Online said it. I saw it on CRTV website, and then it said, okay, we're trying to continue where we failed yesterday, Prof. Now, Prof, you've worked on this for a long time.
Yes.
And you're not telling yourself the good news is here. Can you share the good news with Cameroonians, with Africans?
Yes. What I'd like to tell, Cameroonians is, like yesterday was a really big day, 25th of August, 2020, the day that it was declared the African Regional Certification Commission made the announcement that Africa has interrupted the transmission of the wild polio virus. In the world, it's just one smallpox was eradicated. And then in 1988, the World Health Assembly said, let's go now with polio and eradicate polio. And when they said that in 1988, partners got together, the partners, the WHO itself, CDC, Rotary International, UNICEF, and then later on Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and then Aliko Dangote working all in our region together with the Gates Foundation. These partners got together with governments and countries in the region. And then the Organization of African Unity in now 1996, in fact, what happened, they were meeting here in Cameroon, I said it yesterday, and they came up with the Yaoundé Declaration, where the African heads of states and governments were also adhering to this eradication, let's get rid of polio. And it's after that that Nelson Mandela launched the Kick Polio Out of Africa campaign. You remember that?
Yeah.
You always see football and then you see. That's when Nelson Mandela launched that. And so then the regional director then put in place the African Regional Certification Commission in 1998. And I've been chair of that commission. There are times I wanted to run away, I couldn't. I've chaired that commission until now, yes. And that's every region, every WHO region has its regional certification commission.
How many of them are there? How many regions?
There are 6 WHO regions. 4 of them already have had the certification of interruption of wild polio virus. So it was just Africa and the Eastern Mediterranean
Pakistan and its neighbor Afghanistan.
Then EMRO. And they were left because Pakistan and Afghanistan, yes, they still have the virus now. And there were times we were wondering, will Africa go before with the EMRO? And there were times they really thought, looking at what was happening, especially in the area of Borno, it was thought,
yeah, because
Africa
of Boko Haram atrocities, and then because people there are not interested in vaccination campaigns.
No,
the vaccination was interrupted by the Boko Haram fighters.
In 2009, there was disinformation, like you're getting now, for about vaccination in northern Nigeria. So vaccination kind of stopped there. And we thought by 2010, 11, 12, Africa would already go. I remember the director of polio in Geneva showing me the place, so Rose, you will be next, and so on. But after that, northern Nigeria went wild with that misinformation, and then the virus just spread all over there and went into about at least 14 other countries.
Including Cameroon.
But then, yes, and so that is when the Nigerian government took it at hand. And they put in the emergency operating Abuja, and then they started really working with the traditional leaders in northern Nigeria, with the community. You know, I visited recently, I mean, I got back here 4 days before the lockdown, and I was in Sokoto and Kano, and others went to Borno and so on, to see, you know, what was happening there. So at that time, we stopped, even the certification committee stopped working. And so then later on picked up, when we had to go back now again and then start people on the ground. But I tell you, in northern Nigeria, they worked very, the Nigerian government, very hard, especially in Borno, with the partners and the donors. Yes.
Prof, what does it mean for Africa?
What does it mean?
Yeah,
that we eradicate, we eradicate, you know, that one disease, we interrupted the transmission, meaning that we were having 97,000 children being paralyzed in Africa. We don't have that anymore. When they started in 1988, there used to be 325,000 children being paralyzed in 125 countries. We were having 97,000 children being paralyzed. You've seen these people going around, these polio survivors who are still around. We have quite a few of them you see in Cameroon, you know, that had that paralysis. If you look around now, you don't see them anymore. So that is where, you know, you see the gains that have been made in that. And so that is why it is really, you know, a moment of rejoicing. Dangote said yesterday, we rejoice today and tomorrow we start working, because we'll still have a lot of work to do.
That's where I'm coming now. Dangote says, rejoice now, tomorrow we start working.
That's right.
We are already celebrating. What type of work should be done now?
A lot more. Because we need a lot of surveillance. As long as there is virus still circulating anywhere, like it is in Pakistan and Afghanistan, those two endemic countries, as long as we have it there, somebody came from there and visited with us here carrying the virus. And if we don't have good population immunity, that, you know, for number one, it has to be picked up by surveillance. So we need heightened surveillance in all the countries in the region, all our 47 countries. And then routine immunization should be put up also. You know, so we need, so that we have a population immunity that is so high that if anything came in, it cannot really install itself.
So you mean inoculation exercises must continue?
It must
continue.
And even now that, just, you know, we have in this country, Moki, we have this disinformation about vaccination, which really kills me all the time I hear about it. Because, you know, vaccination has helped. It has, I mean, so millions of our children, and us all, we've been saved by vaccination. We have all this disinformation coming from outside and we listen to it. We need to ask mothers. Mothers have been so important in the polio eradication initiative, taking the children, parents for vaccination. We thank them all. But now they have to make sure that they continue to take these children for the vaccination. It is so important that they don't listen to all these kinds of messages coming from, you know, wherever and so on, and stick to going for routine immunization. Because right now, with the mitigation measures, you have social distancing, you have the mask. If you go to the health centers, they are ready to do all the vaccines. The Minister of Health is saying that all the time. So please, that has to continue. It's very important we keep up the immunity. If not, what will happen, you'll find out more cases of measles, right? If we don't take the children for vaccine, it won't be COVID anymore. It might be outbreak of measles here, outbreak of cholera somewhere, and so on. That's what we'll be getting.
Professor, when I read the statement, it is said, free of wild polio.
Yes.
What is wild polio? How do you differentiate between them?
Right. There were 3 types of polioviruses. There are. I mean, they're still there in the world today. Type 1, type 2, and type 3. Now, the global type 2, because it had been for a long time, from 2000, that we hadn't seen that type 2. So type 2 was eradicated, it was gone. We have this thing of sequentially eradicate, talking about eradication sequentially. That's what the Global Commission says. Last year, 2019 in September, we also signed the eradication of type 3. So with type 2 and 3 gone, all that was left with us, and in Afghanistan and Pakistan, is the type 1. And the type 1 is what was left in Borno. So we're able then to see that in Borno, with so many innovations that came up with satellite imagery and modeling and Avadar and eServe and so on, where the population themselves can go in and do surveillance and so, we're able to see that we had gotten rid, of type 1 there. And so now we've gone with all that in our region. But there is still Afghanistan and Pakistan that still have type 1, is a type 1. And now, Moki, paralysis is not completely gone. When population immunity is down, children can shed. When they give them the vaccine, they can shed it. And when population immunity is not very high, and this stays on, it can mutate sometimes and become causing paralysis again. And in areas where there's been low population immunity, we have had this circulating vaccine-derived polioviruses. We've had them in Cameroon, there are a few. So campaigns have to go for that. That's why we say sequential. We did the 2, we did the 3, now we've finished with 1 in the whole region. But we still have in some areas outbreaks of those circulating vaccine-derived polioviruses. So we have to make sure the campaigns were stopped for a while because of COVID, but now the program is like saying, go back, do the campaigns, and we hope that with those campaigns, we can get rid of that completely.
Now, there are 6 regions, as you told us earlier on, yes, of the Certification Commission for Polio Eradication.
Right.
Now that you have come maybe to the end of your job, are we saying that we shall concentrate now only on the regions where there's still polio, or you still have to go to work?
We still have, there's still surveillance. It seems there's more work now too. At least we don't have to, what we had to do in our commission was prepare countries, go visit them, and make sure that the documentation showing polio-free status, that the documentation was okay. So we visited the countries, we worked with them, with their ministries, with the programs, and so on. So we did that and then came back and received the documentation at other meetings. There are times where we received them. I remember being in Tanzania once. I felt very embarrassed. In their country, they were hosts, and I had to say to them, we haven't received your documentation. You know what that is. And South Africa, I remember here in Cameroon, they were doing very well. We had a meeting here in Cameroon, and they told them, and they were not doing good as the reports came. And I just had to call regional director and send a letter to their minister that we've rescinded their certification, their status that they had had. So we are not done. We still tell countries that they have to be working. We'll still have our meetings. We have update reports for the countries. They have to give us each year a report, and the commission will sit and look and see that surveillance is going well and that routine immunization is going well, and our meets, especially now with COVID, we have to look into all that.
Okay.
So the work is not done.
I want to indicate that we shall be receiving here also Dr. Jean-Luc Mastaki of the Economic Commission for Africa and Gilbert Eweme to talk to us about branding Cameroon, made in Cameroon goods. But Professor, before you leave us, you are a mother, you are a leader, and you are so loved by Cameroonians. Now, what advice would you be giving them as far as polio is concerned? Your communities, your government, and...
Right, First of all, I just want to say, the big thank you that I said yesterday to governments, heads of states and ministries of health and all governments. And then when you leave that, you come to the donors and the partners who work so hard, and then come down to the communities themselves, whether it's the traditional leaders, the mothers, the parents, and all of that, and not to forget the polio survivors and everybody who has really gone in to do this, the mothers and so on. And yesterday, another thing we talked about was the frontline workers that didn't live to see this day. Many vaccinators, in areas, in conflict areas, they were killed in those areas. Mm-hmm. And also the ones that had left us, I also remembered yesterday Professor Joseph Mbede, because he was the one here in Cameroon who worked very hard with he was chair of the National Certification Committee here in Cameroon. So what I like to say is just, a thanks to everyone that was so involved in this. but to say that there's still a lot of work to be done, that surveillance has to be heightened in all the countries here in Cameroon and all the 47 countries of the region. And we have to ensure that our children are vaccinated. It is so important that mothers, that we do everything, neighbors talk to the others and have all our children vaccinated, and not to listen to all this misinformation and disinformation that is coming in, because vaccination has really saved millions and millions of our children. And in the context of COVID-19, of course, that will, those mitigation measures that the government has, put in place, that I'm talking about a mask, excuse me, I just took it off. Okay, I'm put it away.
We're respecting the
that
distance.
We are distancing, yes. And so, now with COVID-19, we have that to deal with, and we know what the government is telling us. And so, thanks to everybody.
Prof, I wanted to tell you this at the end of it. You make Cameroon proud. You're an ambassador of Cameroon. I know you love your country so very much. Please, thanks so very much for making us proud.
Thank you, and to God be the glory, really, for all of this to happen.
That was the chair of the African Regional Certification Commission for Polio Eradication, Cameroonian-born Professor Rose Ghana Fombandeke, giving good news to us about Africa declared and free of the wild polio. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we shall have Dr. Jean-Luc Mastaki of the Economic Commission for Africa and Gilbert Eweme to talk to us about branding the image or made in Cameroon. Let's have a break.
Il est essentiel que les mesures qui ont été indiquées soient absolument respectées par chacun de nous.
Lavez-vous régulièrement les mains à l'eau et au savon ou à l'aide d'un gel hydroalcoolique. Restez à au moins 1 mètre de distance des autres personnes, surtout si elles toussent, éternuent ou ont de la fièvre. Si vous avez de la fièvre, de la toux ou des difficultés à respirer, consultez un médecin.
We brave all odds.
Quoi qu'il arrive, on doit seulement aller voir le site de Nactigal.
This is just part of the job of a reporter.
Get the facts.
We are at the heart of the Nactigal waterfalls.
On a parlé de 500 participants et experts.
And bring you the news.
C'est ici que se dressera le barrage de Nactigal à Mont, au Conseil constitutionnel, au Palais des Congrès de Yaoundé, pour vous donner les dernières évolutions.
Une équipe.
Un objectif.
Est-ce que le poivron est moins cher?
Vous servir.
Les légumes sortent en colonne d'Obala.
CRTV News on all fronts.
CRTV News sur tous les fronts.
Clarity, the Sokwan Gymnasium in Changchu, South Korea.
CRTV News est né depuis le Katin Kolmesen Sayaoun.
Larry Elvande, signing off for CRTV News.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info. CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Vous les voyez tous uniformes dans leur tenue, mais aussi dans leur émotion.
The slip-on boundaries undergo all that very tough treatment.
Ils sont là pour entendre ce que la République veut.
repartir à leur pays.
We are precisely at the Gaoundéré Lamidad, where Muslim faithful.
Yatokpa, c'est le plus grand marché de Cotonou, mais aussi le plus vaste de la sous-région.
Merci de nous rejoindre ici à la résidence principale du Palais de l'Unité.
La préparation de la salle qui va abriter le grand dialogue national.
It is here that a student of 4e espagnol has helped his teacher.
C'est le grand jour. Les fidèles musulmans arrivent en rang au serré.
Andy Kinemeki, une femme d'une 50aine d'années, a été froidement assassinée.
Forces of law and order ensuring the safety of everyone in the town.
Le festival Danse et Continent Noir bat son plein.
First Lady Chantal Biya will hand over gifts to over 300 children.
Merci de prendre des nouvelles de Campo.
Engage the grand event, the major national dialogue.
Nous sommes là sur une des voies d'accès du stade de Chapeau-Mat.
Botswana-Kenya, c'est la première rencontre de cet après-midi. Nous sommes à près de 1000 km de Beijing.
Follow me and let's find out Shanghai and the Shanghainese.
CRTV News, Sally Sonatafaha at the Nachtigal Dam.
Gladys de Bouddha, as such.
I am Ellis Wajibambia in Gaoundéré.
I am Gladys Asu in Mamfe.
A government high school called Bison, I am Karine Sosak.
Denis Sinémé depuis le carrefour à Dakar.
Bernard Kamla depuis le lycée classique Colbison.
CRTV News, Esther Ayiboko depuis le palais polyvalent des sports.
Amchide, Steve Tchengai Kembenge, CRTV News.
CRTV News, Jamila Katsalat.
CRTV News, nothing but the news.
Thanks for watching Twilight on CRTV News. Branding and packaging of made in Cameroon as the country gears towards industrialization. That is the theme of a conference that begins tomorrow. We have invited some officials who are organizers of this conference. Gilbert Eweme, who is Managing Director of Yes Cameroon. Gilbert, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Muki.
What is Yes Cameroon?
Yes Cameroon Youth Employment Service is a social innovation enterprise founded in 2006 with the focus to nurture mature SMEs and startups towards industrialization.
We also have with us Dr. Jean-Luc Namegabe Mastaki of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He is Economic Affairs Officer of the Sub-Regional Office for Central Africa that's based here in Yaoundé. Doctor, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, now, my first question to you, Doctor, since you are doing, what is branding and packaging?
To explain this concept, we have to understand the general context of economic development of nowadays. You know, globalization has allowed economies actually to exchange more and interact more among themselves. And each economy would have its own product exporting to external market or selling on local market. And branding is the way we package our product to allow them to move from the producing zone to the consumers without any deterioration, expanding their life shelf actually, and also allowing them to reach the consumer within the required quality. That's the packaging. Branding actually is now giving an identity to a product, giving the signal about how it has been done. Nowadays, customers, you and I, we want to know what product we are consuming. People are now very conscious about the quality and the history behind the product they are consuming. So branding means you give that signal, you make it transparent to allow them to know which product they are consuming in terms of quality, standardized, to metrology, but also the history, the ethics. Now it's becoming very strong. The ethics behind the product. That's why you hear about made in Cameroon, made in Central Africa, trying to portray our way, the way we produce, so that people can know this is a product from Cameroon with its reputation, different from a product from Nigeria or from China, which have their own process of producing.
What is the situation like in Africa as a continent? Are African countries giving importance, the industries and so on, to branding and packaging?
Actually, the African market is integrating, as I've said. Africa itself has created the African free trade area, which is a big market now. We are talking about the biggest free trade market in the world within coming few years. So now competition is becoming very, very tight. And at national level, countries like Rwanda, Ethiopia, South Africa, you will see made in South Africa, proudly South African. So countries are trying to portray the specificity of their industries, expecting to attract and make sure that they have their own customers who rely much more on their product.
Mr. Gilbert Eweme, I asked him about the situation in Africa. What do you think about branding and packaging, or packaging and branding in Cameroon?
Thank you, Mr. Moki. You know, it is a very serious problem at the level of Cameroon. Mindful of the fact that many young people, many startups, many micro-entrepreneurs, when they initiate a business idea, they don't take their time to better construct what they want to put in the market. So if you go to most in our supermarket, in our shops, you will find that the products made in Cameroon, they are not very, very attractive. So it is a serious problem at the level of industrialization.
Attractive from, I mean, when you see them, or attractive when you consume?
Attractive as well when you see them. Well, you know, a product, we have two levels of looking at it. The first thing is the packaging, like Dr. said, the identity, which is the brand. And then the second thing now is the content of the product itself. So in Cameroon, we have first of all that problem of the branding, the packaging, which is a very serious problem. That is why you find a lot of these startups, a lot of these entrepreneurs, they still do it manually in their homes. So it's a very big challenge.
Do you have some examples of the products that you think could have been doing better?
Yes, we have a lot of made in Cameroon products. We have chips, plantain chips. We have juice, natural juice, mangoes, guavas. We have gari. We have tomatoes transformation as well, because young people are equally into that. We have a lot of agricultural transformation product, but unfortunately, it is a serious problem at the level of the transformation.
Dr. Jean-Luc, who is supposed to invest in this transformation? The enterprise, the government?
Yeah, it's actually a very broad domain which calls upon partnership. Not only the private sector and the entrepreneurs. As my good friend and colleague is saying here, these are small. In Cameroon, 95% of our companies are small-scale ones, which themselves will not be able to invest into this. We need a kind of partnership between the public and the private sector, where not only we need to strengthen their capacity in terms of understanding what the importance of having.
Very important, because it's good to understand the concept of branding and packaging before.
Yes, so beyond individual entrepreneurs, there are also all these umbrella organizations. The association of entrepreneurs, which should play a critical role in terms of bringing them into economies of scales through trainings, so they understand what the importance of doing so, investing in packaging and branding. But also the government has to put in place the ecosystem, the necessary ecosystem which allow packaging industry to emerge and to compete with others, because accessing to packaging is related not only to its price, but also to some of the huge debate issues related to sustainability. Most of the packaging we have in the country will be related, for example, to the plastic packaging, and environment issues are there. They are global today. So there must be a regulatory framework which allows this company to flourish, but also to respect some of the issues related to sustainability.
You are from Congo, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm from the DRC, yes.
From the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Doctor, what are those goods made in Cameroon that you see in your country that you think the packaging should have improved?
Yeah. I think Cameroon is a food basket of the region, and this is the most diversified economy in this region. Cameroon produces a lot of food stuff which are actually exported. But you know, from Yaoundé to Kinshasa, for example, it's a long journey. We know how the bottlenecks in terms of infrastructure, and most of these food products are perishable, being food products. So we need actually to strengthen things like he was saying here, the chips from the plantains, or maize flour and cassava flour, things like that. When they are well conditioned as packaging, they live longer, and the consumer in Kinshasa would expect to have fresh product where quality is ensured. And the very important one is transparency. Transparency is the information we put on the package.
I was coming to, how do you verify that this information really reflects what is in the package?
Yeah, that's again where I'm saying it's a comprehensive thing which encompasses even the metrology. Metrology is the office here which dealing with norm and standards, which has to be credible. And whenever it assesses the quality of a product, we should trust it.
That's International Standardization Organization.
Exactly.
Now, Mr. Gilbert Eweme, doctor is just saying that we have a lot of farm produce, food from here. How do you package for food I want to export to his country, for instance?
Well,
you have to put it in leaves, right?
Yes,
I
think fufu corn flour is better.
Okay, the fly itself.
The fly itself.
Not the
yes, not the fufu itself. So it's best packaging the corn flour to export to DRC or in other parts of Africa.
We have 5 minutes to be together, and let's not talk about the conference that's beginning tomorrow. What motivated you to organize it?
Yes, you know, like I said earlier, yes, Cameroon is a social innovation enterprise, and one of the key things that we discovered, the context in Cameroon. We have more than 70% of SMEs and startups in the informal sector, and most of these guys, they are doing well, but unfortunately, their capacity needs to be built towards industrialization. So that's one of the things that trigger us to pull these things together. Like I said earlier, if you go to most of the supermarket in town, around town, you find most of the Cameroonian product, they are not competitive. Even within Cameroon, they are not attractive. So not to talk of exporting to other African countries and abroad. So that's one of the things that we say, okay, let's call these guys, let's bring some of these guys who are doing well, who are managing, such that we'll give them the necessary tips, orientate them, build their capacities on how best they could package and brand their product. You know, we are talking about the African Continental Free Trade Zone, which is a very good opportunity for Cameroon and other African countries. So, but if their product does not meet the standard, it will be very difficult for them to
Who are the speakers
compete.
and who are the participants?
We have experienced experts in the domain of different sectors. We are going to have a three high level panel. The first panel will involve some of the successful entrepreneurs who are doing well in the packaging domain, in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Cameroon. They'll be giving their success story on how they started and how they are succeeding in the sector. The second panel will focus on professional organization, because we think they are key. These are organizations that are working day in, day out with small and medium-sized enterprises, with startups. So we think that they are very important for them to join the conference. The last panel will focus on institutional and stakeholder support, which that's why we are bringing in the Economic Commission for Africa, and then we have the Ministry of SMEs, we have the Ministry of Commerce, because we think that the last panel, like I said, institutional support and partners are very, very key for the conference. At the end of the day, we are going to forward an advocacy document on how Cameroon can transform, can brand.
Who are the participants? You have invited everybody to come?
Not everybody. The participants are carefully selected from different sectors. We have, because we'll talk about branding, we don't only talk about product. We have services as well. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, SMEs in the domain of services, but they need to brand their services. So the participants are carefully selected from different sectors.
Dr. Jean-Luc Namegabe Mataski, so what are the inputs of the structure, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa? How are you assisting them?
The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa first is a technical arm of the United Nations, supporting Africa into its structural transformation. We are bringing African solution to our own problems. So our office in Yaoundé focuses in supporting countries like Cameroon in promoting industrialization. And we are bringing in our technical expertise to help different stakeholders actually integrate and come in as a coalition toward industrialization. And we believe that branding and packaging are components which are critical if we have to industrialize. So we are bringing this experience we have on the issues, but also best lessons we have from the overall Africa and elsewhere, as our office covers the entire Africa. So not only on the commercial and trade side, but also on industrialization, trying to make sure all the debate on trade, on certification, standardization are brought in, but also the process of reviewing the industrial policy in Cameroon is informed by this process. So we bring this experience we have on Central Africa, but also on the entire African region.
Dr. Jean-Luc Namigabe Mataski, the Economic Affairs Advisor of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, the Sub-Regional Office in Yaoundé. Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
And Gilbert Eweme, Managing Director of Yes Cameroon, I want to thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
At what time is it starting and when is it ending?
We are going to start at 10 a.m. and stop at 5 p.m.
And where precisely?
At Jega Palace Hotel in Yaoundé.
With this COVID-19, I hope...
well, we have got a very big hall, and we are going to respect the government measures against COVID-19.
Okay. Thanks very much, and we hope to have you some other time. But you stay with us here. When in about 5 to 10, or less than a minute from now, we shall be having the news with Dayo Obono, and he will certainly be talking about developments in the country, especially the meeting of youth and holidays that was launched today by the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Mununda Fotso, at the headquarters of CRTV here at Mbalatu in Yaoundé. Gaël, bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Moki.
Le 19h.
Et en ouverture du 19h, le ministère des Affaires sociales a présidé ce jour à Yaoundé la session 2020 du Comité national pour la réadaptation et la réinsertion socio-économique des personnes handicapées. Objectif, valider le projet de référentiel d'évaluation des déficiences et incapacités des personnes handicapées au Cameroun. Clara de Marabs.
La réinsertion des personnes handicapées au cœur des échanges du Comité national pour la réadaptation et la réinsertion socio-économique. La plateforme milite pour une société accessible et inclusive pour tous.
La session d'aujourd'hui a pour rôle déjà de poursuivre l'élaboration, faire une évaluation à mi-parcours des textes d'application qui ont été élaborés et pour voir s'il faut poursuivre cette élaboration-là, mais surtout de valider le référentiel d'évaluation des incapacités.
La validation de ce projet va permettre aux personnes handicapées de jouir pleinement de leurs droits fondamentaux et de leur dignité comme tous citoyens.
Depuis 2018, la date de signature des textes d'application de la loi 2010, ces personnes handicapées ont maintenant le moyen de faire attendre leur voix. Parce qu'ils ont les représentants selon le type d'handicap et par région.
Le ministère des Affaires sociales poursuit sa mission afin de garantir la protection et la valorisation des talents et potentialités des personnes handicapées, estimées à plus de 2 millions au Cameroun.
Un atelier d'identification des activités génératrices de revenus porteuses en faveur des petits opérateurs économiques ayant été touchés par le coronavirus s'est tenu en journée à la mairie de l'arrondissement de Yaoundé 6e, organisé par l'Institut panafricain pour le développement en partenariat avec l'organisation Tam Tam Mobile. Je vous propose d'écouter quelques réactions sélectionnées par Nice Ennemi.
L'objectif de cet atelier, c'est d'amener les gens à être capables d'aller sur le terrain, une fois, d'abord de comprendre ce qui se passe réellement pour cette pandémie et comment arriver à combattre cette pandémie avec beaucoup plus d'efficacité. Alors, c'est passé d'abord par une mission sur le terrain qui a identifié et qui dit comment donc agir. Et c'est cet atelier qui dit, compte tenu de ce qu'on a connu sur le terrain, des informations du terrain, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire? Et ce qu'on peut faire, c'est préparer des activités génératrices de revenus.
La vulnérabilité par rapport au Covid-19 ont été appelés ce matin pour qu'ils puissent aussi participer. La méthodologie étant participative, où on ne devait pas venir là en donneur de leçons, leur dire. L'atelier de ce matin, c'est d'impliquer la cible. Notre cible, pour qu'elle puisse s'exprimer, pour qu'elle puisse participer et qu'on puisse encore récolter des données et des résultats consensuels.
La 5e édition de l'opération Vacances citoyennes et patriotiques a été lancée ce jour au centre de production de la CRTV ici à Mbaladu. L'événement placé sous le thème jeunesse et citoyenneté responsable en temps de coronavirus vise à sensibiliser les jeunes vacanciers à la prévention du Covid-19 et leur assurer des vacances éducatives et utiles. Sur les contours de cette opération, je vous propose d'écouter le ministre de la Jeunesse et de l'Éducation civique qui présidait la cérémonie. Mununda Fotso s'exprime au micro d'Amina Toubindoro.
L'opération Vacances citoyennes et patriotiques rentre bien dans le cadre de la campagne nationale d'éducation civile et d'intégration nationale, dont l'objectif est le réarmement moral, civique, patriotique et même entrepreneurial de ces jeunes pendant la période des vacances scolaires. Cette année, au regard du contexte, nous avons placé cette 5e édition de l'opération Vacances citoyennes et patriotiques sous le thème de jeunesse et citoyenneté responsable dans un contexte de Covid. C'est pour aider les jeunes à avoir non seulement des vacances utiles, mais également des vacances sans Covid-19. Et donc, à cet égard, nos équipes sont déployées sur le terrain. Tous ces acteurs-là vont sillonner villages et quartiers pour organiser des activités de sensibilisation, d'information et même de formation en direction de leurs pères jeunes pour les aider à passer des vacances agréables et surtout éducatives et en ayant également la bonne information pour faciliter leur insertion socio-économique.
En politique, le 31 août marque la fin du processus d'inscription aux listes électorales selon le code électoral et dans les antennes communales et les CAM, il n'y a pas foule, mais le processus se continue jusqu'à la fin du mois. Écoutons ce reportage de Christelle Avom.
Les antennes communales et les CAM évoluent au rythme des usagers qui timidement s'acquittent de leurs devoirs citoyens. Mais il n'y a pas foule dans ce centre de Fundi 1. Les cartes, elles, sont orphelines. Un peu plus loin, à l'antenne communale de Yaoundé 4, Mimboman, on vient pour se renseigner. Le Covid aura eu raison de l'affluence attendue.
Le Covid a beaucoup impacté sur nos chiffres. Les électeurs ne tiennent pas à venir à cause de la pandémie. C'est tout à fait naturel, tout à fait légitime pour eux. À la même période, nous étions déjà des milliers d'inscrits. Et là, on peine à trouver le rythme, à voir les électeurs qui arrivent.
La date limite étant fixée au 31 août prochain selon le code électoral, la commission mixte devra ensuite siéger pour valider les inscriptions enregistrées.
La cérémonie de clôture des cliniques de l'entrepreneuriat territorialisé lancée en décembre 2019 s'est tenue ce jour à l'hôtel de ville de Fou. Il en ressort que sur les 189 présélectionnés au départ, 30 projets des jeunes ont été retenus. Les 15 premiers ont reçu des certificats d'accompagnement technique et financier et les 15 autres juste un certificat d'accompagnement technique. Réaction des officiels au micro de Nadège Mbaïma.
Délégation des PME, nous avons été suivis et de là nous avons eu l'information que le réseau des parlementaires avait mis sur pied une opportunité pour aider les jeunes. C'est ainsi que nous avons eu à déposer nos projets et puis nous avons été sélectionnés. Notre projet porte sur la pisciculture. Nous voulons étendre nos productions, produire du poisson pour que tous les Camerounais puissent en bénéficier à des prix assez bas.
Nous faisons dans la production du maïs que nous allons vendre en grains séchés pour les provenderies. La disponibilité pour la gestion du projet, la disponibilité technique que nous avons sollicitée et la disponibilité financière.
Ce projet est sur l'économie numérique intitulée Providential graphique, qui fait dans la sérigraphie, la broderie, l'imprimerie, le transfert numérique.
Il nous revient à nous maintenant, jeunes lauréats, d'être sur le terrain actifs à notre niveau pour pouvoir booster l'entrepreneuriat et avoir un poids économique.
En sport, coup de tonnerre sur la planète foot. Lionel Messi, le sextuple ballon d'or, a annoncé ce mardi qu'il souhaitait quitter le FC Barcelone, son club de toujours. Une annonce qui suscite de nombreuses spéculations au sujet de sa prochaine destination. Précision dans ce reportage de Martin Bani.
Après l'humiliation historique subie par son club en quart de finale de la Ligue des Champions, Lionel Messi, l'attaquant catalan, a annoncé son souhait de quitter le FC Barcelone. Sous contrat jusqu'en juin 2021, Le sextuple Ballon d'Or veut résilier son contrat en vertu d'une clause qui a expiré le 10 juin dernier. Selon les avocats du joueur, le caractère atypique de cette saison, coupée par le coronavirus, a ouvert la voie pour que Messi demande à être libéré de son contrat dès maintenant. La superstar se retrouve donc sur le marché, mais son salaire exorbitant, évalué à 50 millions d'euros, est un obstacle de taille pour la plupart des clubs. Manchester City, Manchester United ou encore l'Inter semblent bien placés. Âgé de 33 ans, l'attaquant argentin a porté le FC Barcelone vers des victoires en championnat espagnol et 4 en Ligue des Champions.
Hors de nos frontières, au Mali, les sanctions continuent de tomber sur la République. Après le coup d'État militaire du 18 août, un communiqué de l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie déclare la suspension de la République du Mali de ces instances. Par ailleurs, le sommet de la CEDEAO, reporté à vendredi prochain, prévoit la fermeture des frontières des États membres avec le Mali et l'arrêt des flux financiers et commerciaux. Compte rendu Claude Sandra de Tout, stagiaire.
L'Organisation internationale de la francophonie suspend le Mali de ses instances. Une décision rendue publique hier lors d'une session extraordinaire tenue par visioconférence. Le secrétaire général, Louis Mushikiwabo, insiste d'ailleurs sur la nécessité d'un retour à l'ordre constitutionnel et appelle à la libération du président Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. L'organisation réclame dans les meilleurs délais un gouvernement de transition conduit par une autorité civile. Une délégation de haut niveau sera ainsi envoyée à Bamako afin d'évaluer la situation au Mali. Néanmoins, l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie maintient les actions de coopération qui bénéficient aux populations civiles, ainsi que celles qui concourent.
Nous nous excusons pour la qualité technique de cet élément que nous espérons avoir dans nos prochaines éditions de journaux. Et c'est ici que nous mettons terme aux 19h, Moki, chers téléspectateurs.
Thanks, Kairo. We shall be getting into our last segment of the program, which the economic supplement is going to be with Paul Christel Bija. Let's have a break and then our supplement.
We brave all odds.
Quoi qu'il arrive, on doit seulement aller voir le site de Nactigal.
This is just part of the job of a reporter.
Today's Wednesday day, Twilight brings the economic supplement, and with Paul Christel Bija, and she's going to be talking to us about the economic news and developments in Cameroon, Africa, and the world. Hello, Paul Christel.
Bonsoir, Mouki.
And over to you.
Alors, en économie, les nouvelles sont plutôt bonnes. Nous revenons sur l'état de la résistance des économies de l'Afrique subsaharienne. Selon le rapport Moody's publié le 15 août 2019, les pays capables de réagir en cas de crise économique mondiale, ce qui veut dire capables de rembourser leurs créanciers, sont le Rwanda, le Cameroun et la Côte d'Ivoire. Selon l'agence de notification américaine Moody's, ces 3 pays sont ceux qui peuvent maîtriser le mieux leurs dépenses publiques obligatoires, c'est-à-dire payer leurs salariés, fonctionnaires, réagir par rapport à leurs subventions d'investissement, leurs investissements et tout ce qui va dans ce sens-là. En cas de choc extérieur. Revenons sur quelques chiffres avec Laurel Sangwa.
Mention assez bien pour le Cameroun, en dépit d'un environnement économique mondial morose. Selon l'agence de notation Moody's, le pays montre une belle stabilité et présente des atouts lui permettant de faire face aux répercussions post-pandémie. Tout était pourtant parti d'un mauvais pied depuis le mois de mai, où l'agence a tour à tour placé l'Éthiopie, le Sénégal, la Côte d'Ivoire et le Cameroun sur surveillance en vue d'une éventuelle dégradation en mettant les risques de pertes financières. En dépit de tout, la locomotive de la CEMAC repart à plein gaz. Après révision des notes, le Cameroun a ainsi vu la reconduction de sa note à B2, accompagnée d'une perspective de stabilité. Selon les experts de l'agence de notation, le Cameroun bénéficie de plusieurs atouts, notamment la diversité de son économie, le renouvellement anticipé du programme avec le soutien du FMI et à son appartenance à la CEMAC atténuant les risques de vulnérabilité externe. Cet état de choses impose néanmoins un effort soutenu des membres de la sphère économique nationale.
À présent, cette autre nouvelle positive dans le rayonnement international du Cameroun. Au poste de directeur, l'économiste camerounaise Vera Sangwe, candidate au poste de directeur général de la Société financière internationale SFI, une filiale de la Banque mondiale. En face, un seul adversaire, l'Ivoirien Thierry Tanor. Vera Sangwe est la secrétaire exécutive de la Commission économique pour l'Afrique depuis le 13 avril 2017, par ailleurs directrice régionale pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest et l'Afrique centrale de la Société financière internationale. Sur la scène locale à présent, parlons de la gestion des comptes des municipalités. Au total, 173 communes et mairies de villes ont posé leurs comptes à la Chambre des comptes de la Cour suprême en 2019. L'exercice est une obligation pas encore respectée par les 374 collectivités territoriales décentralisées. Le PNDP, avec l'appui du ministère des Finances et du Développement local, anime depuis le 19 août une deuxième phase de coaching. À revoir avec Daniel Menanga.
La petite école de gestion simple des comptes pour les receveurs municipaux a aidé à Région du Littoral. La deuxième phase de l'exercice est en cours et une Consamba deuxième s'illustre.
Nous avons eu une information que le compte de gestion devait être une association de tous ces états-là unique dans un seul document unique. Avec ce que j'ai reçu, dès mardi prochain, je serai à Yaoundé.
La production sur pièce reste un casse-tête dans la gestion des comptes. Le programme national de développement participatif réexplique le procédé.
Nous avons la Chambre des comptes qui est là d'abord pour commencer par déconstruire la peur. Nous avons le représentant du ministère des Finances qui est là pour dire sur le plan de la technique comptable, si vous êtes trompé, on peut vous aider à corriger. Voici le PNDP qui est sur le plan technique et financier là pour continuer à accompagner, comme nous le faisons depuis 2012.
La classe est ouverte aux 374 comptables des communes et mairies de villes sur l'ensemble du territoire national, avec l'espoir de susciter d'ici la fin d'année la culture du dépôt des comptes chez 80% de la cible, 46,26% déjà atteinte en 2019.
lance la plateforme numérique. Il s'agit d'une banque de données sur les établissements financiers et les usagers inscrits. La campagne de vulgarisation de cet instrument a été lancée ce mardi par le ministre des Finances, Louis-Paul Motazeux. Plus de détails dans ce reportage de Lucrèce Mebenga.
Habitués des chèques sans provision et de toute autre forme de filouterie bancaire, gare à vous. Plus qu'hier, un clic suffira désormais à un gestionnaire pour vous démasquer. C'est l'innovation qu'apporte la plateforme informatique et automatique du Comité national économique et financier à travers ses composantes.
Lorsque vous commettez un incident de paiement avec la CIP, l'assujetti va procéder à une télédéclaration. Il va dire « Madame est frappée d'interdiction bancaire ». Et cette information, contrairement au système manuel, sera partagée par tout le système bancaire. Ça veut dire que vous êtes fiché. Vous êtes dans une relation d'affaires avec quelqu'un, la personne vous fait un chèque. Avec notre système, vous avez la possibilité d'aller chez votre banquier pour vérifier la régularité du moyen de paiement avant de vous engager dans la relation.
L'impossibilité de bénéficier à nouveau de crédit, le retrait du chéquier sont quelques-unes des sanctions encourues. La bonne nouvelle étant que la plateforme est mise à jour et que le client débiteur défaillant peut à nouveau être crédible au terme d'une procédure avec à la clé le remboursement de ses créances.
Dans le Cameroun profond, région de l'extrême nord, le gouverneur Bidiawa Bakari interdit l'exportation des céréales à l'exception du riz padani. Cette mesure vise à lutter contre la vie chère. La décision rendue publique lundi dernier au terme d'une réunion. Les détails avec Alexis Guidjatou.
Les consommateurs de la région sont à bout de souffle. Le céréal présent sur le marché n'est pas à la portée de tous.
C'était monté jusqu'à 20 000, 21 000 aussi. Avant là, c'était 15 000, 14 500.
Une augmentation qui touche à d'autres denrées de grande consommation et dont les causes sont bien connues de l'administration.
C'est l'exportation massive et abusive de ces denrées-là. Nous parlerons également de la spéculation.
Et pour tenter d'apporter des solutions à cette situation préoccupante, l'autorité administrative a réuni opérateurs économiques, responsables sectoriels dans ses services. Une rencontre qui a débouché sur des résolutions fortes.
Le sorgho, le mil sont interdits d'exportation jusqu'en novembre. Mais s'agissant des padis, nous avons demandé aux uns et aux autres de le faire, mais en travaillant d'un commun accord avec la douane.
L'on espère que ces mesures feront tache d'huile pour que la peine du consommateur soit allégée.
Pour finir, rendons-nous dans la région de l'Est où le bitumage de l'axe Bonobo-Bertois a boosté l'activité économique de la région. Là-bas, les commerçants expriment leur satisfaction et louent cette initiative du gouvernement. Plus de détails dans ce reportage de CRTV Est.
Les populations résidentes au lieu-dit Bodomo apprécient la réfection de l'axe menant à leurs habitations.
Nous sommes très fiers ici en douane parce que on avait de la peine à circuler ici parce qu'auparavant il y avait la boue.
Avec le concours de la municipalité locale, engagée pour le bien des citoyens de Bertois, plusieurs activités économiques se sont développées sur l'axe de Bodomo en quelques temps, depuis le bitumage de cette route.
Devant la viande de bourse, parfois le poisson. Depuis qu'on a refait la route, ça va quand même. Avant, c'était pas facile. C'était tout un calvaire. Quand il pleuvait comme il a plu la nuit, là, c'était vraiment pas facile.
Là où la route passe, le développement suit. Et même si ici à Bodomo, l'axe est achevé, plusieurs difficultés d'accès sont à relever à la sortie menant à la gare routière.
Voilà donc qui met un terme au round-up de l'activité économique ces derniers jours. Merci Mouki.
Thanks, Paul Christel. And thanks for keeping us informed on economic developments in Cameroon, Africa, and the rest of the world. This will come to the end of Twilight on CRTV News. We had here in the studio an official of the African Regional Certification Commission for Polio Eradication, Cameroon-born Professor Rose Ghana Fomban-Leke, to give us the good news of how Africa has been declared wild polio-free. We also spoke about branding and packaging of made-in-Cameroon goods with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Jean-Luc Mastaki Namegabe, who is from DR Congo, and Gilbert Eweme, a Cameroonian. They have organized a seminar in Yaoundé tomorrow. I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka in Yaoundé, thanking you for watching Twilight on CRTV News. Bye now.
Il est essentiel que les mesures qui ont été indiquées soient absolument respectées par chacun de nous.
Lavez-vous régulièrement les mains à l'eau et au savon ou à l'aide d'un gel hydroalcoolique. Restez à au moins 1 mètre de distance des autres personnes, surtout si elles toussent, éternuent ou ont de la fièvre. Si vous avez de la fièvre, de la toux ou des difficultés à respirer, consultez un médecin.
CRTV News